1960s, a wave of change swept across America. Young people, seeking freedom, love, and a new way of living, became known as the hippies. Centered in neighborhoods like Haight-Ashbury, the hippie movement was more than a fashion. It was a revolution. It was about challenging the status quo, embracing peace over war, love over hate. Music was at the heart of the movement. Rock, folk, and psychedelic sounds echoed the call for freedom. Cannabis, too, became a symbol of liberation, shared in circles of love and protest.
London's Hyde Park becomes a hippie festival as some 3,000 so-called flower children gather to preach love, peace, and legalize pot, marijuana to us. The colorful, chaotic congregation used posters to plead their cause. A confiscated accordion used to accompany Buddhist chants, and a speedily removed smoke bomb were the only incidents. The nonviolent demonstration brought stares, gasps, and chuckles. And this just has to be the living end. Thousands of demonstrators opposed to the Vietnam War assembled in the nation's capital for a mass protest. For the most part orderly, minor scuffles did occur between the demonstrators and hecklers. A 3-hour parade takes the demonstrators across the Potomac on their way to the Pentagon. The crowd, estimated at about 50,000 persons, was a loose confederation of some 150 groups and included adults, students, even children. It is at the Pentagon where the first test of strength comes. Military police contain the crowd, but clashes soon break out. Federal marshals arrest several who attempt to break through the protective line. Reinforcing the marshals, a second wave of MPs with fixed bayonets in scabbards move into position. Some 400 demonstrators are arrested, 2 soldiers are injured, and tear gas is used. 6 break into a Pentagon side door, but are quickly apprehended in the day-long disturbance. The next day, campfires are lighted to hold off the autumn chill. The same weekend saw nationwide demonstrations supporting American GIs in Vietnam. The Pentagon protest was less violent in its second day of sitting in. The 2-day protest ends with over 600 arrested and the widespread opinion that the
In the 1960s, faced with an unpopular war that they were told not to criticize, a significant segment of the younger generation rebelled against their parents, their communities, and their government. Spurred on by rock and roll, they chose, as countercultural guru Timothy Leary put it, to turn on, tune in, and drop out. In other words, they became hippies. The long hair, the stoner speech patterns, the peace symbols, and the flower power, at the time they were viewed as a very real threat to the American way of life. In addition to opposing the war, hippies advocated communal living at a time when communism was the country's ideological enemy. They spurned the work ethic in an era when people defined themselves by their jobs. They embraced Eastern philosophies and religions that were alien to most Americans, and they took over whole neighborhoods, most famously San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district, where 100,000 hippies settled in for 1967's Summer of Love. But most alarming of all to 60s America was the hippie embrace of marijuana.
Nearly everyone in the hippie community smokes marijuana, whether they call it pot, grass, hemp, gauge, joint, or Mary Jane. The marijuana is the basic background for the shared drug experience. The experience is shared to such an extent that roach pipes are always in demand. The new generation, whether they are runaways or rebels in residence, use marijuana as a symbol of discontent with the basic values of the establishment.
Hippie culture reached its peak of both visibility and influence at Woodstock in 1969. Billed as 3 days of peace and music, the festival was also a celebration of free love and chemically altered consciousness. The darker side of all these freedoms started to surface in the 70s, with acid casualties and rampant STDs. And as hippies aged and had children of their own, they inevitably became less radical. By the late 70s, they were all but extinct. Still, their legacy remains strong. They didn't stop the war, but they did give America more relaxed standards of dress, sexuality, and recreational drug use. And of course, every major music festival still strives to be the next Woodstock. Maybe no one says groovy or out of sight anymore, but where it counts, we're all still a little hippie.